You know that feeling when you totally get what you should do, but when it's game time, your body freezes, your voice disappears, and your heart starts racing like you're running from a lion? Mastering your nervous system is the hidden switch behind every big result, whether in business, career, or your personal life. It's almost like your nervous system has more control over your life than your conscious will. The real issue isn't lack of potential. It's not knowing how to use the powerful machine you're carrying in your chest and your head. Once you learn how to rewire that machine, entrepreneurship, high performance at work, confidence, and leadership stop being cute buzzwords and become a natural side effect of your inner state. Maybe you grew up hearing, life is too hard, that success is only for special people, or for those born with some kind of lucky gene. Meanwhile, your nervous system got trained to react with anxiety and stress every time something big shows up. An important meeting, a new opportunity, a project for 2026. What almost nobody tells you is that nervous system control isn't a gift. It's training and discipline applied to how you think, breathe, prepare, and act every single day. When that switch flips, motivational quotes stop being just comfort and start sounding like a description of who you're actually becoming. What you're about to go through here isn't fluffy self-help talk. It's basically a practical manual to help you take charge of your emotional state and, as a result, your outcomes. The idea is simple and powerful. Once you learn to regulate your nervous system, you stop begging for confidence and start overflowing with it. You stop just dreaming about high performance and actually live it. That means being way more prepared to make money, lead people, make tough calls, and build, with consistency, the life you say you want. When your mind stops sabotaging you, discipline stops feeling like punishment and turns into a lifestyle. Your self-confidence rises and your body responds with more energy, focus, and clarity. Consistency, emotional control, and the right motivational phrases at the right time work like hitting update system on your inner software, taking the weight off your anxiety and making room for smarter decisions. Anyone who gets this starts, almost without noticing, to build a path of high performance at work and beyond, laying solid ground for 2026 and for every year after that. Deep down, it's not about being strong 24/7. It's about learning to regulate your state so your results stop being an accident and become a natural consequence. Picture someone who went from anxiety attacks, sweaty hands in simple meetings, and fear of talking to important people to becoming a multimillionaire, leading teams, and inspiring trust in every room. The difference wasn't just studying harder or working double, but actually learning in real life to control the nervous system in critical moments without romanticizing suffering or buying into toxic, just suck it up speeches. This emotional mastery changes how you negotiate, lead, sell, position yourself in relationships and business opportunities, because confidence and leadership always start on the inside, long before they show up on a resume. People like this start using anxiety and nervousness as a signal, not a life sentence, redirecting that energy into discipline, consistency, and focus on real results. This kind of internal reconfiguration is what truly gets someone ready for 2026, for promotions, new ventures, and bigger challenges, while most still believe everything is about luck or the right contacts. Anyone who masters their nervous system doesn't turn into a cold robot. They become someone who chooses their response instead of running on autopilot, even under pressure. Instead of freezing mid-presentation, this person breathes, remembers the intention, the preparation, the small wins already stacked, and speaks with presence, charisma, and clarity, projecting confidence without trying too hard. This directly shapes how clients, executives, and teams see that person, someone with emotional control, long-term vision, and the maturity to lead without drama. From there, entrepreneurship stops being just working like crazy and becomes playing a different game, with more strategic, less impulsive decisions, which increases the odds of sustainable results. And that's exactly where the first practical rule shows up, to prep your mind and body for the next big leap in life and career, without depending on luck or empty promises. When someone decides to take the future seriously, preparation stops being a detail and becomes a core strategy for calming the nervous system and lowering anxiety before any big moment. Instead of just winging it, this person reviews content, organizes ideas, studies the context, and walks into the room already knowing the outcome they want. This kind of posture strengthens self-confidence because the brain starts to associate being visible with safety, not danger. In entrepreneurship, this applies to pitches, negotiations, interviews, quick client calls, literally everything. That's how you build a high-performance path at work and put serious groundwork in place for 2026, without leaving your future up to chance. So the first rule is simple to say and powerful to live. Prepare as much as you can before any conversation that might impact your results, your career, or your business. That means reviewing materials, anticipating questions, researching people and companies, understanding the landscape, and stepping into the room with a clear intention in mind. This level of discipline changes the game, because it puts you in a leadership position even if your title doesn't say leader yet. People who do this start being seen as a reference, someone who brings emotional control, focus, and clarity, instead of someone who just talks to avoid awkward silence. Slowly, that reputation turns into trust, opportunities, doors opening, and bigger results. There's also a quiet side effect of full preparation. It retrains your nervous system to see challenges as growth opportunities instead of threats. The more you prepare, the more your body learns it's possible to feel butterflies in your stomach without losing control, using that anxious energy as fuel, not as a brake. Motivational phrases stop being pretty noise and become reminders of a discipline you're actually practicing every day. Over time, this way of living creates a kind of consistency that touches everything: your relationship with money, your confidence in leadership, your professional positioning, and even your courage to dream bigger. And right at the point where your preparation is solid, the next rule kicks in. Stop being a hostage to little rituals, habits, and lucky charms before you take action. Some professionals walk into any meeting as if it were the championship final, and they do it with a calm that's almost annoyingly elegant. A tech VP, for example, doesn't lean just on a fancy LinkedIn headline. She studies the business, learns the people, reviews the numbers, anticipates risks, and already knows which decision she wants to influence. This kind of person doesn't live off random motivational quotes. They live off preparation stacked with discipline and daily consistency. The result? They keep their nervous system in check, even in rooms full of powerful people. Say less, but say it with weight, authority, and clarity. To everyone watching, that reads as confidence and leadership, that presence that makes a room go quiet when they start talking. The gap between someone like this and the average person isn't born talent, it's operating system. While most people show up to meetings just to see what happens, high performers arrive with clear goals, organized data, planned scenarios, and backup options. That alone slashes anxiety because the brain knows it isn't walking into a slaughterhouse, it's executing a plan. In entrepreneurship, this mindset separates people who are always putting out fires from the ones who build solid, sustainable strategy. Real self-confidence here doesn't come from thinking, "I'm amazing," but from knowing there's solid groundwork behind every word, decision, and negotiation. This kind of highly prepared leader also understands that mental health and performance are not enemies. They're teammates when there's inner clarity and organization. Regulating the nervous system for 2026 and beyond means stopping the habit of jumping into key situations on pure improv and treating each important interaction as a step toward bigger outcomes. Bit by bit, the body learns that a tense meeting isn't a threat. It's a growth stage, and the mind stops sabotaging with worst-case scenarios. Motivational lines become reminders of who you're already becoming, not crutches for someone who doesn't act. And once this pattern locks in, the next shift appears. Trusting your daily practice instead of leaning on endless rituals and superstitions just to feel ready. A lot of people think that to perform at a high level, they need some huge ritual before anything important. The right mug, the lucky pen, that one playlist, the exact same spot at the table. That might bring quick comfort, but it hides a trap. You start believing that without all that, you just can't perform. Real confidence doesn't grow out of superstition. It grows out of practice, study, discipline, and consistency. It's that, "I've done this so many times my nervous system knows the path," not, "I can only do this if everything is perfect." In entrepreneurship, people who rely less on a perfect setup and more on inner preparation can keep their emotional balance even when chaos walks into the room. When your confidence is built on daily work, anxiety drops because there's evidence, not just wishful thinking. Every meeting you prep, every pitch you rehearse, every tough conversation you go through becomes a brick in that internal structure. Motivational quotes stop being a band-aid and become the short version of a new identity. Someone disciplined, focused, and ready for 2026 and for bigger goals. At that point, Nervous system control stops depending on little quirks and turns into the natural result of habits that keep your brain and body ready for pressure. Confidence and leadership, in this context, are just the logical outcome of what you do when nobody's watching, not something you pull out of a lucky charm in your bag. That doesn't mean you need to ditch every routine. Just choose what actually helps and drop what turned into a crutch. A quick mental warm-up, some deeper breaths, a fast review of key points. These can stay in your prep without becoming a psychological prison. The real message is simple. Trust more in the capacity you've built through consistency than in any magic sequence before a meeting. This mindset strengthens your nervous system, clears your thoughts, and opens space for results that are more predictable and less dramatic. And once that foundation is firm, another silent enemy of confidence shows up. The everything is hard narrative that feeds anxiety and blocks your next level of performance. There's a type of phrase that sounds harmless but slowly poisons your nervous system. Everything's hard nowadays and nothing works, nobody helps. When you keep repeating that script, your brain starts seeing every challenge as proof that the world is against you, and you have zero control over your results. That ramps up anxiety because it feels like you're always losing a game that's rigged from the start. At work and in business, this mindset freezes initiatives, crushes self-confidence, and makes every attempt look too small to matter. Over time, you convince yourself that discipline and consistency don't change anything, and that's exactly what lack of results needs you to believe to stay in power. This everything is impossible story creates perfect ground for victimhood and stagnation. Instead of looking at what can be adjusted, learned, or tested in a new way, you start collecting failure stories like they're your whole identity. Your nervous system stays on constant high alert, reading every new task as a threat instead of a chance to grow. The consequences: lower productivity, more impulsive decisions, foggy focus, and constant exhaustion even when you're not delivering as much as you could. Accessing confidence and leadership becomes nearly impossible if, deep down, you believe the game is lost before you even show up. Breaking this pattern doesn't mean denying reality or pretending everything is easy. It means choosing an inner script that builds you instead of tearing you down. Motivational phrases, when matched with action, become new commands for your brain. It's hard, but I can learn. It's challenging, but I can prepare better. I don't control everything, but I do control my next steps. Nervous system control depends heavily on this inner dialogue because it defines how much space anxiety has to run the show. With time, you stop seeing 2026 as a threat and start seeing it as a testing ground to apply discipline, consistency, and ownership over your outcomes. And that's where a new rule comes in. Even when something goes very wrong, it doesn't have to be the end of the road. A quiet belief destroys many people's emotional balance. The idea that one single mistake can ruin an entire career, business, or reputation. This all-or-nothing mindset sends your nervous system into overdrive because every meeting, presentation, or key conversation feels like a potential end of the line. In business and in your professional life, that fuels unnecessary anxiety, as if every step were a minefield. A mature view is the opposite. Nothing, no matter how bad, has the power to erase the story of someone who keeps learning, tweaking, and showing up. The game isn't decided by one mistake. It's decided by what you do after it and by the consistency that comes next. Imagine a presentation that goes completely sideways. You forget data, freeze on a slide, run out of time, and walk out thinking, "That was my worst ever." Is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Is it the end of your career? Not even close. High performers, respected leaders, and big-name entrepreneurs all have stories like that. The difference is they treat those moments as a lab, not a funeral. Instead of feeding themselves with inner "I'm a failure" lines, they use discipline and confidence to review what happened, see where emotional control slipped, and prepare a much stronger version for next time. That way, the nervous system learns that mistakes aren't death sentences. They're training data. This alone slashes the suffocating pressure that paralyzes so many people. When you accept that no single situation can destroy everything, you take a huge weight off your shoulders and perform better precisely because you're less tense. That's not about being careless. It's about understanding that results are built over a long sequence of actions, not a single episode. This mindset shields you from toxic perfectionism and imposter syndrome, two classic enemies of confidence, leadership, and readiness for bigger goals like your 2026 targets. Nervous system control then comes from remembering what ruins a journey isn't an isolated event, it's a long pattern left uncorrected. without discipline, and without consistency. And that's where the next rule steps in. Don't let a chain of small failures quietly take over your future. One random stumble doesn't get to decide anyone's future, but a long streak of neglect, lack of discipline, and zero consistency does. When you really get this, your nervous system relaxes around single mistakes and becomes sharper about what truly matters, what you do on repeat. Anxiety falls when you stop obsessing over ruining everything at once and start owning your daily patterns instead. In business and in your career, what builds or breaks your results is never one bad day. It's the way you keep operating over time. Real confidence is born when you see your power lies in upgrading that pattern, not in trying to never mess up. Consistency and discipline work like invisible tracks for high performance. They keep you moving in the right direction, even on days when your motivation disappears. Small daily actions repeated with intention shape the way your brain sees challenges, goals, and deadlines, and that also changes how your nervous system reacts to pressure. Instead of panicking every time something important appears, you start feeling, "I've been training for this," which cuts anxiety and boosts emotional control. That's true whether you're building a business, leading a team, changing careers, or planning a big jump in 2026. Results stop being a lottery and become the predictable outcome of behavior you maintain over time. On the flip side, when you normalize being late, breaking promises, half studying, and always deciding at the last second, you build consistency in the wrong direction. Your nervous system gets used to living on edge, fed by chronic anxiety, fear of being found out, and a constant feeling that you're behind on everything. Over time, that erodes your self-confidence, weakens others' perception of your leadership, and makes any big goal, especially in your career or business, look way out of reach. Anyone who wants to level up has to look honestly at the pattern, not just at the last thing that went wrong. That's where a powerful rule for tense moments comes in. Learn to be still. Control your body and your silence to take back command of the room. In a tense room, a lot of people try to cover their nerves by talking too much, waving their hands, laughing loudly, or fidgeting non-stop. Their nervous system is on high alert, and the body shows it before they even say a word. The rule here feels counterintuitive. Instead of speeding up, the key is to be still, fully present, moving minimally, sitting or standing tall, and keeping your gaze steady. That intentional calm sends a loud message of emotional control, confidence, and leadership, even if you still feel those butterflies inside. It's like saying without words, "I'm here, I'm grounded, I'm not running." Regulating your nervous system in tough meetings is way more about your body than most people think. Slow, deep breaths, an aligned posture, steady hands, and a relaxed face send a direct signal to your brain. You're safe. That signal lowers anxiety and lets your thoughts line up again. In business settings, anyone who masters this looks more prepared, even when they're hearing things for the first time. Motivational phrases help, but it's your body synced with your mind that really holds high performance in those critical moments. There's another powerful detail: knowing how to use silence on purpose. Instead of forcing yourself to answer instantly, you breathe, observe, and let a few seconds pass before speaking, and that alone already radiates confidence. That microspace gives you time to organize thoughts, filter emotions, and choose your words better, protecting both your image and your outcomes. To everyone else, that behavior looks like maturity, emotional intelligence, and self-command. Exactly what's needed to handle more responsibility in 2026 and beyond. Once controlling your body and your silence becomes natural, it creates room for another key layer: bringing lightness so all of this doesn't turn into a heavy burden. Sometimes people turn every meeting into a courtroom and every email into a final verdict, and that wrecks their nervous system. The fourth golden rule is remembering in a grounded way that most of the time, it's not that deep. Business matters, but it doesn't have to feel heavy 24/7, and that mental relief can drop anxiety almost instantly. A touch of healthy humor, a light comment, or a small joke at the start of a conversation helps the brain lower its guard. In entrepreneurship and at work, those who balance seriousness with lightness tend to be more creative, more emotionally stable, and deliver better results. Bringing lightness also means taking care of the space around you. A minimally organized environment with a setup that feels like you, visible motivational phrases, a plant, a nicer color. These things speak straight to your nervous system. Your workspace stops screaming chaos and starts whispering focus. which supports consistency, discipline, and a quiet sense of, I'm in charge here. Meetings that start with simple questions about small wins, recent highlights, or something good that happened build human connection before diving into numbers. That kind of atmosphere boosts trust in leadership because people start linking that professional with clarity and well-being, not just pressure. Lightness isn't lack of responsibility. It's emotional intelligence applied to everyday life. Laughing together at the right time, sharing a funny behind-the-scenes story, recognizing your team's effort, all of that regulates the group nervous system. With less mental tension, decisions get better, conflicts get resolved with more maturity, and productivity rises almost without anyone noticing. Anyone preparing for 2026 with this mindset understands that real high performance doesn't mix with constant drama. It comes from balance between pressure and breathing room. And that's why the last piece of the puzzle is seeing how people who control their emotional state end up inspiring more, leading more, and closing way more deals. People who know how to manage their nervous system transmit something money can't buy: safety. In meetings, negotiations, and tough conversations, while everyone else gets lost in impulsive reactions, this person stays composed, listens fully, answers clearly, and doesn't take the bait on needless conflict. That makes clients, executives, and teams think, this is someone I can trust. In business, that perception is gold, because trust and leadership open doors no resume can. As a natural consequence, that steady posture brings more results, more closed deals, and more chances in 2026 and beyond. Professionals with strong emotional intelligence tend to make better decisions even under pressure, because they don't let anxiety drive the car. They breathe, think, regulate their inner state, and only then choose what to say or do, which massively upgrades the quality of their choices. That mix of confidence, discipline, and consistency turns conflicts into adjustments instead of wars. Teams led by people like this work more engaged, feel safer to share ideas, and keep their performance high without living on the edge of burnout. In the influence game, those who carry inner chaos spread chaos. Those who arrive centered spread direction. Leaders and entrepreneurs who take care of their mental health and emotional state become silent role models. People seek them out, ask for their input, follow their vision because they feel the alignment between words and behavior. That kind of presence builds a field of trust where negotiating, aligning, and deciding becomes much easier. So anyone who genuinely wants to move up in 2026 needs fewer magic tactics and more work on the core: emotional regulation, a stronger nervous system, and alignment between mind and body. That's exactly where the whole idea of reconfiguring your inner system comes from, to build a level of success that doesn't depend on luck or other people's approval. If you've read this far, one thing is already clear: there's nothing wrong with your talent. The issue is a nervous system trained for survival mode that now needs to shift into results-building mode. The real question is, what are you going to do with everything you've just learned? Are you going to close this and go back to the same routine that leaves you anxious, frozen, and running on autopilot? Or are you going to choose, starting today, to train emotional control, consistency, and discipline like you'd train a muscle? If nothing changes on the inside, don't expect 2026 to magically fix what you refuse to move. Take an honest look at your life. Where are anxiety and nervousness still making decisions for you? In what situations does confidence fall short when it's time to speak up, lead, ask for what you deserve, or say no to what keeps dragging you down? How much of your high-performance potential in your career or business is still locked away because your nervous system panics whenever something important gets close? And being brutally real, how long are you going to accept living below the life you know deep down you're capable of building? If this resonated, your next move is simple and strategic. Apply at least one thing today. Reshape one meeting, tweak one ritual, try one nervous system regulation technique. Write down the decisions you're going to handle differently from now on. Then come back here to go deeper. To keep leveling up, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you can keep learning, step by step, how to rewire your nervous system and turn this knowledge into real-world results.